On our very first date, I was here filming Dr. Phil, and so we had to move our date, and then we were sitting at the table, and I didn't know how it was going to go. Like, I didn't know if he was going to be whack, you know, because you just don't. I'm being honest. You were honest on the video. I saw you. You was very transparent. I saw you, babe. And then and so I'm like, at minimum, we'll be able to recap the conference, and then we can leave if there's nothing, no connection. And then, so I remember coming out of my hotel, and he was just staring at me like I had wings only he could see.
Lordy have mercy, Jesus. Now, ain't that sweet? And how is it that so-called pastors can just lie as easy as they breathe in and out? Allegedly. Oh, but anyway, y'all. Hi there. I'm Professor Blackmore, and welcome back to my channel. And today, I want to answer the question: did Pastor Toure Roberts divorce his wife to marry Sarah Jakes? And if you want to see what's in these divorce papers from Pastor Toure Roberts' divorce from his prior wife, and if you want to see how I'm going to show you that this made-up Dr. Phil story surrounding their first date was actually not their first date, you better stick around. And I also want to welcome you back to my series entitled Woman Evolve, the ProfessorBlackmore.com pre-show, because I will be answering these questions in this part 3 of my series. Now, for all of you who want to tell me that I need to mind my own business, I just want to inform you that I'm carrying out my ministry by following up on a question that was posed to me by one of my esteemed channel visitors, who asked the following question in response to my video entitled, "Did Pastor Keion date Shaunie while he was still married to Lady Felicia?" And the question is, didn't Toure Roberts do the same thing before marrying Sarah? And y'all, this is how you know a person has asked a good question, and that is when it's a question that you didn't think of yourself. And so this immediately spoke to my spirit, honey child. And when I started doing the research, I noticed that it had all of the same DNA that I saw when I was researching how Pastor Keion and Lady Shaunie executed the strategy that they were communicating in the wordplay around the question of when they first started dating, as compared to the moment in time when Pastor Keion filed his divorce from his wife in almost the same exact way. I mean, the part about how they were introduced by a friend, how the so-called first date was 6 hours long, it is almost an exact blueprint, it seems, that has been crafted to deal with the public relations for this type of church house scenario. And so y'all know I don't come on here to play patty cake with the facts. Y'all know when I come on here, I'm coming through in the name of Jesus, honey child. So let me start with the alleged lie so you can see what they want us to believe to be the truth. So from the moment that they were engaged in September of 2014, this is the story that they have been telling us as published in multiple publication outlets. Quote, "The couple met in the spring of 2014, and at the time, Sarah was promoting her book, Lost and Found, and taping an episode of the Dr. Phil show, which aired April 1st. End quote. Now, the first question is, if you don't have anything to hide, why would you say you started dating in the spring? Why can't you just say the month and year or the exact date? And why would you use the date when the Dr. Phil show aired, when we know that was not the date when you actually went on this date? I mean, the date that the Dr. Phil show aired has nothing to do with this. And what's so surprising to me, as I found was also true in the Pastor Keion and Lady Shaunie strategic wordplay about the date when they started dating is all they have to do is put the wording out there, i.e., spring of 2014, and that is what all of the news outlets will report. Nobody will question it, and it will be reported as if it is the gospel truth. And so, just like the alleged lie was executed in the Pastor Keion, Lady Shaunie strategery, you have the same fuzzy wordplay going on here, honey child. But at the end of this episode, I just want to know if you still believe this spring of 2014 Dr. Phil show story. Because if the Dr. Phil show aired on April 1st, we know the show must have taped sometime prior to that. And I'm going to show you later how I'm going to bust through this spring wordplay. And so you better stick around. And so you can see the promo for that Dr. Phil show episode was actually posted on March 28th, 2014. And so now we're from April of 2014 back to March of 2014, since the episode would have to have been taped prior to March 28, 2014. And if you do enough digging, especially when you're dealing with people who give their lives freely to the internet, even though they're trying to hide the truth, they will end up telling you the truth because it's hard to keep up with alleged lies. And so a praise on TBN interview that they did, Pastor Toure Roberts communicating in his own words what happened. Now, let me say a few things about this because y'all know I can cut through all of the alleged lies, honey child. First of all, I encourage you to go watch this full interview so that you can get your own context, and so it won't be said that I'm taking anything out of context. And I will place a direct link in the description section below. But when you have to say, quote, there was the initial meeting where it was strictly platonic, there was no romantic interest, end quote, and you want us to believe that everything is quote unquote supernatural. We know that it was an initial date. You were dating. I mean, why you want to call it a meeting? We're not stupid, Pastor Toure. A date is not defined by what you're doing or whether you want to call it a date. It's defined by how you are feeling about each other when you're with that person. And when you have to go out of your way to clarify that it was strictly platonic and there was no romantic interest, it's just alleged lies, 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 people. And let me show you why. Because when you start talking about how a month later you're at a conference and you reveal that it was BishopTDJakes conference, well then now we're talking, boo. Because I can go to the internet and let it do what it do. And the internet reveals that it was Bishop Jakes' yearly leadership conference that took place that year from March 6th to March 8th, 2014. And so now we've moved from the Dr. Phil show alleged lie, and we've zeroed in on the beginning of March 2014. Because do we believe that these people ended up at the conference together by pure coincidence? I mean, who really believes that? And so, therefore, if the truth be told, you're saying you actually started meeting or dating or whatever the hell you want to call it somewhere around the end of January or the beginning of February 2014. Because you said, quote, about a month later when we were with each other at a conference, end quote. And so that means that first date actually took place at the end of January 2014 or the beginning of February 2014 time frame. And now, why is all of this important? Well, this is important because if you look at the courthouse docket sheet from Pastor Toure's divorce from his prior wife, it reveals that just like Pastor Keion filed a divorce from his wife, leaving his child and other stepchildren in the home with his ex-wife so he could date another woman, i.e. Shaunie, Pastor Toure likewise filed a divorce from his wife, leaving 3 children in the home with his ex-wife so that he could go out and date Sister Sarah, a woman 20 years younger than him. And when does he file this divorce? Well, he filed it at the beginning of February 2014, on February the 7th, 2014, i.e. at the exact same time period when this so-called first meeting took place. And we all know they were already in dating territory at that time, allegedly. And why do you do this, Pastor Toure? Well, I'm glad you asked. You do this because you know goodness well you ain't gonna go sit up in BishopTDJakes leadership conference that following month during the time of your next date with Sister Sarah, trying to pursue the man's youngest daughter, of which you are 20 years older, while you're still married to another woman with 3 children. And so that right there is why you hurried up and filed that divorce right after your so-called initial meeting. And so now y'all know what time it is. It's time for me to break it down on my timeline, honey child. So Pastor Toure filed a divorce from his ex-wife on February the 7th, 2014. And so you can see why they want us to believe that they started dating in the so-called spring of 2014. And that is because just like the Pastor Keion, Lady Shaunie scenario, this is a better story for a so-called pastor of a church, placing the first date after he filed the divorce petition. And just imagine if you're a member of Pastor Keion's church, or you are a member of Pastor Toure's church. And at that time, it was called One Church LA, that he started in 2004, which has now been rebranded into a Potter's House Church. But I digress, y'all. But just imagine you're a member of this church, or just imagine if you're the wife and children of the pastor, and you wake up one day to learn that you have been displaced of your husband, your father, and your church, and you're a member of that church. Okay, bye, Pastor Toure. Goodbye, boo. But I think we can all at least agree that spring takes place from around mid-March to mid-June. And so they started dating or meeting, or whatever you want to call it, around January or February of 2014, which is not spring. And the spring of 2014 strategic wordplay is just simply a lie, people. Allegedly. And so I'll pick up here in part 3B of this episode so I can finish my timeline and drop all the tea from Pastor Toure's divorce decree. But as y'all know on here, I just ask and report, and I let you decide. So, what do you think about all of this mess so far? Do you believe that this first so-called meeting was actually a strictly platonic meeting with no romantic interest? Or do you believe these people were already dating, which prompted Pastor Toure's February the 7th, 2014 divorce filing to end his marriage with his wife? Or do you believe this Dr. Phil show story cooked up by Sister Sarah to make you think they started dating after the divorce was filed in the spring of 2014? Please let me know by leaving your comments in the comment section below. And I hope you'll also give me a big thumbs up And I hope you'll also consider donating to this video by clicking the super thanks heart button below. And I want to also ask that you please subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell so you'll be notified whenever I come back with more hot tea drama on this case. And please also follow me on TikTok and Instagram.